Crowdfunding on the internet is always a gamble, even from trusted people. We have seen many cases of projects being funded, yet not delivered for one reason or another. But as for failed concepts, what happens to those ideas? Does the creator move on with another project? Or do they perpetually toil away on something that never worked the first time around? Meet Jonathan Rosansky, or as he's better known online as the internet cartoon critic, the mysterious Mr. Enter. He had such high hopes for a living that his cartoon would succeed. Asking for $350,000, was that goal achieved? And if not, is he still pursuing the idea? Hello, I'm Daft Pina, and this is Growing Around, Mr. Enter's Failure. I mean, sure, if you look at the title, you can guess how it went. Join me in figuring out who Mr. Enter is first. Born 1992 in Massachusetts, Mr. Enter used to be known as a Brony reviewer and was an active member of the Brony analyst community. And subsequently, all of his reviews back in 2013 were just pony related. However, his first non-horse related video was called Animated Atrocities, The Splinter, in which he reviews an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. Well, back then, you'd call them yellings rather than reviews.
How did 3 professional level writers come forth with this crap when a 5-year-old would know better and throw it in the trash? These 3 do not deserve to have jobs. They deserve to be fired immediately and blacklisted.
And so with that, he stopped making MLP content to focus on animated atrocities as well as admirable animation, where he talks about animated things that he likes. Also of note, in 2016, he hired his first editor, and his videos look slightly better. Still making content to this day, he stopped making admirable animations, branched out into some live-action film reviews, and even made a better revered series on his channel called Technocracy. This documentary series revolves around his thoughts on current social media on the internet, but those are the positives, as if you've ever heard of Mr. Enter, it's probably something he did like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, as he was a lot more harsh and hateful, calling specific attention to writers of shows, which got them harassment from his fan base. Remember, this is over children's cartoons. But with all of his years critiquing animated television shows, did Enter have any ideas of his own? Yes, kind of. Back in 2014, Mr. Enter was writing the 55th episode in his review series, Anime Atrocities, and in this one, he reviews something called Shorts, which was a 2006-2007 anthology series on the Disney Channel, just showing some pilots. And one idea that caught his attention was called Flip-Flopped, a pilot that depicts role reversal of parents and kids. You could say it's like Freaky Friday, but it's not. Within his review, Enter, like many of his older videos, gives it a scathing critique, declaring this was a wasted concept on the people who made it, with little to no positives on the matter. He even said,
"The concept is great. In fact, I really think that someone should roll with this again. Just keep the kids as kids and adults as adults. Just flip their roles. That would make an awesome cartoon."
That line caused Mr. Enter to focus over 6 years on his spin of the idea, turning it into Growing Around. And no, there was no prior name. It was always called Growing Around. But to turn back time a little bit, during Mr. Enter's MLP days, he met the artist Neofla. After, he drew a comic based on one of Mr. Enter's writing works, and with that, they became better acquainted while he's making the review of Shorty McShortshorts. They put their minds together to work on Growing Around. That's right, Growing Around is not just Mr. Enter's property, it's Neo's as well. Mr. Enter was the writer, and Neo being the art asset creator, storyboard artist, and even the overall product manager. In July 2014, they had a few scripts and characters done, with Enter wanting to pitch the show to Disney and/or Cartoon Network. It was never, like, specific. When interviewing Neofla, some of the details are a bit spotty since this was, like, 6 years ago. To get more stuff done, Neo added some volunteers to produce more art for the show. At this time, there was no budget, as all the people working on it, from the art assets and the voice actors, were all just volunteer. Working towards a pilot to pitch, The concept of Growing Around starred the Dunn family, Robert and Linda as parents, Sally and Timmy as kids. Later on, Timmy would be changed to Max. But here's the catch. In this world, kids rule. They drive, work, and dictate the lives of adults, with the original pilot following Robert and Linda failing a class? Yes, once you become an adult in this world, you have to go to school forever? And basically, you lose all your human rights. God, that sounds like a nightmare and a terrible place to live in past the age of 18. Progress was as awful as the premise, as in 2015, while Neo was redesigning the characters, he calculated that at the pace they were going at, it would take them nearly 7 years to complete a pilot. That would make it about 2022 with the small team they had. Shortly after, due to personal reasons, Neofla quit in 2015, with the team dispersing as well. And around this time, with no real team, Mr. Enter wrote a book based on the characters of Growing Around. It was released in digital and physical form, with his intentions behind it to help fund comics and perhaps animations of his idea, the idea of Growing Around. In 2016, Neofla came back on the project, but having some quarrels with the concept, sent Mr. Enter a document called Growing Under My Skin, which detailed all the issues he had with the project. But as per request from Neofla, I can't show the document in full, but I can give some generalities. He criticized the world, the ramifications of perpetual adulthood in school, or having adults in general, the lack of actual kids in strips, Sally being a terrible person and terrible main character, and other small details here and there. But what did Mr. Enter think of this document? Well, he actually listened and began to retool the project. But instead of working on a pilot, they shifted focus to shorts. Neofla's reasoning was,
since the team wasn't interested in working on the project anymore because we moved on to try to do shorts and that failed as well. And we're like, well, if we can't do shorts, we're not going to be able to do a pilot.
And in April of 2017, he redesigned the characters another time, and the team did their best with a short. Sadly, however, they weren't able to complete a short in the way they wanted to, and for a second time, the team disbanded, with Neofla leaving the project 1 month before the Indiegogo. June 20th, 2018, Mr. Enter released an Indiegogo trailer for his idea of Growing Around. Yes, instead of, say, producing a short to see what you're capable of, Mr. Enter asked for $350,000. Oh, you think that amount is for like a series of episodes? Well, no. Try one. Actually, it isn't even an episode. It's a pilot. Basing the budget on similar pilots and even Family Guy, asking for $350,000 was just the start of the series. The story itself being at least 22 minutes in length, because in an interview, Mr. Enter said that he isn't capable of writing anything shorter.
With the time limit, it allows me to really get into certain issues and the nuances in them. Plus, it is a personal weakness of mine. I have a hard time writing things short. Like, we definitely tried for an 11 or a 7 or even shorter minute pilot, but I had a hard time creating an entire coherent story in that amount of time.
And despite this being a pilot, it's not going to be pitched to Disney or Cartoon Network, as Enter has expressed distaste with networks and how they retain their rights for properties. Also, part of the reason why he went with Indiegogo was because his book wasn't as profitable as he once hoped. Adding on to that, not many people knew the book or even this Indiegogo existed.
What do you mean? I thought he was the cartoon reviewer of 2018.
No, you're thinking of Pan Pizza.
Then why have I not heard of it?
Well, because Mr. Enter doesn't believe in marketing.
How will marketing Growing Around go?
I don't know how necessary that would be.
If you want a good example of indie promotion, VivzyPop has a few Twitter accounts for his shows, and even does frequent merch promotions to help pay for the show. And the promotions themselves actually have some comedy in it, so it makes it more interesting to watch. Smart stuff. But as you watch the pitch video, there's no animation or storyboards produced. But remember, Mr. Enter is not an illustrator, he's a writer. And as such, he paid someone $500 USD to make the stills for the video. as he states,
"The short answer is, I didn't want to have to make an Indiegogo pitch for an Indiegogo pitch. The pitch video itself cost me over $500, including the storyboards, the editing, the music. If we want to count the model sheets the characters are based on, that's a lot more too. If it was fully animated, it would cost thousands on top of what I already made." In a world where kids make all of the rules, they run the schools, the homes, the towns, and the countries. It sounds like it would be a world of fun and games, and some days it is.
after watching the trailer, you might have a few questions about the show. Mainly in terms of why he needs all that money. We don't know what animation style the show will be in, how does aging work, and even what after Indiegogo. This is also noting the many comments asking how the world works, always bringing up how convoluted and seemingly not thought out it was. Thankfully, Mr. Enter released another video, answering nearly some of the questions half the time, making you go, huh. Firstly, he states that he needs the money because animation is expensive. Well yeah, but what style is he going for? Would it be, say, rig-based animation in Toon Boom? Frame-by-frame animation all around? Will it be like any Filmation production where the characters stand around and talk? And also, with this much money for the first episode, pilot, what of the next episode? At this time, around 20 to 25 scripts are completed, so by his standards, he needed between 7 million and 8,750,000 to make those scripts fully animated. You could say that he would of course lower the amount of money asked for those episodes, but then it's like, how low would that be, and why wasn't it that low in the first place? If this was, say, a movie or perhaps a short film, then asking for 350,000 would be sufficient in telling a complete story with a finite ending. Say if Has Been Hotel didn't get picked up, and instead wanted to be a short film, I can easily see Vivzy raising 350,000, or better yet, probably $1 million, which would be cool to see. But when asked about further funding, Mr. Enter said he'd make a Patreon. Of course, this is keeping in mind budget-wise, a comparative show would be hell of a boss. They have frequent promotion of their merch, keep engaged with the fans, and they do all that they can to make more of the show, which is great. I want to see more of these characters. Go watch my 2 videos to see my in-depth feelings, of course. Okay, what if he only gets, say, 1/4 of the money he asked for?
Less than a quarter of the amount? We're probably going to try and fund an animatic to show people what the animation can do, and then do another crowdfunding campaign to get that animated. Maybe not with television quality animation.
Okay. All while this was happening, Tom Scott, of all people, reached out to Mr. Enter with a tweet, stating the project wouldn't reach its goal. They had a heart-to-heart about the concept.
I really do like his advice, and he seems like the person I'd most trust to follow the advice. After all, he has done a crowdfunding campaign for an animated series. If there's someone you trust on this topic, it would definitely be him.
And as the Indiegogo drew to a close, did Mr. Enter get the money? Did Mr. Enter deliver on the project? I mean, it is the present day, and he sees some animation on the screen. No, he didn't. But of course, all wasn't lost. Mr. Enter did raise over $10,000. That's really good to see that people wanted to help out, and even Enter himself learning along the way.
Has Growing Around sort of pushed you to be a lot more socially active?
Yes.
Like,
Yes, it has. I mean, the people that I've worked with have become some of my best friends that I've ever had.
because think about it. Like this video you're doing right here. I don't believe you've collaborated with someone on I mean, you did the Steam Hams video.
Yeah.
But, like, before that, I don't believe you've collabed with someone for years?
I think the last one was with Pie Guy in 2014. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the video, right? The Indiegogo failed, Mr. Enter got humbled, and now he's off doing new, brighter things, yeah?
No. Check the runtime of the video, and subscribe. Despite me getting in contact with Neofla, and even Sarah, a former editor of Mr. Enter, I was unable to get in contact with, well, Mr. Enter. As he states, I don't do interviews or debates anymore. Well, no, okay, so much for being social. Well then, what has he been up to then? Recently, as a reviewer, he acknowledged that he dislikes his older reviews, yet still falls into the same practices of previous reviewers. You see, with the likes of Pan Pizza and Ellis Mark, although they have been making reviews for the longest time, they actually evolve their style. For Mr. Enter, it's just a PNG in front of another PNG, and then he shows clips with not much flair. Riveting stuff all around, but in late 2019, he gave himself a challenge. In the month of December, he wanted to review every single Nickelodeon show that month. You'd think he was crazy. Yeah. As in order to achieve this, he'd have to review multiple series per day, which makes each review poorly made, as he doesn't have enough time to properly watch and critique each show. To quote Jay-Z, "You can't listen to an album and rate it in a day. It's just impossible." This caused Nick O. Rama to bleed into the next year. Failing on his promise, the stress he forced upon himself blew up into his departure from Twitter, calling it a toxic platform and leaving DeviantArt for the same reason. I suppose this might be a natural progression, as even to this day he still gets hate for things many years ago. So in any event he actually releases Growing Around, I hope he's able to handle the criticism online. During this time alone with his thoughts and friends, however, he made a recent review over the Lion King 2019 movie, in which he explores some of his feelings regarding what he has accomplished. Such things as making a game, and even a book came across his mind with his younger selves, telling him to appreciate what he's gotten. And that's right. Not many people were able to say that they finished a game or even wrote a book. And amongst his atrocity reviews, a recent series that gained public fanfare was Technocracy.
Did he stop pursuing his show? You literally just mentioned him growing as a reviewer, making new content people enjoy. Did he finally stop making Growing Around in 2018?
No, he kept going. During his Nick O. Rama escapades on his second channel, he released a video talking about Max's many birthdays, which was supposed to be the pilot funded from his old Indiegogo. Remembering that Max was Timmy previously. And within the video, he explains his distaste for pilots, calling them inaccurate representations of the final product.
Pilots are a really, really bad way of showcasing a television show, especially if your show is anything other than an episode a week kind of deal. I do get the point of the pilot. It's more or less a pitch towards the audience, and in it, it's supposed to establish the setting, the characters, and the tone, but it feels like it's something that belongs in the past. It's something that we've outgrown.
Between you and I, when a pilot is picked up, things are changed. Some things as big as an art style, or perhaps just refining some of the smaller aspects. The idea of a pilot is to take off, and for a series to land, meaning the flight was successful. Every plane needs a few tune-ups to fly a bit longer. Aside from his view on pilots, he adopted the idea that as a creative head, everything is your fault.
I know it's said by the villain of the movie, but it's actually good advice. And it's something that I take into my overall life. If the people I work with screw up, and the screw-ups slip by me, it is my fault. There is no excuse. It's my fault the second that I decided this is okay in some way, shape, or form.
And remember when I said he had 20 to 25 scripts written back in 2018? Well, as of January 2020, he has over 70 finished, and wants to complete 175. And if you want to read any of them, they're locked away on his Discord server. But if you wish to read the scripts, please don't go there just to harass him, and I don't encourage any of that. But circling back, if we took the $350,000 that he originally wanted and applied it to 175, that would be $61,250,000 if all episodes had the same budget. This is keeping in mind that he wants to have the scripts at least 22 to 26 minutes a pop.
People who were working with me at the time suggested that I tell something in 3 minutes, or in some tragic cases, even less. I have made a lot of mistakes in this great adventure of making my own series, and we're gonna get to them sooner or later, but making Growing Around a 22-minute episode type show was not a mistake. I am very glad that I stuck to my guns on this one.
On that same theme within the video, he states that his audience is unable to understand the world that he created, also stating that he doesn't owe an explanation for his premise.
I owe literally zero explanation to my premise. That is the definition of a premise in fiction. Any explanation you get with my premise is a bonus.
And for some reason he brought to light a comment or two that said this.
My favorite piece of criticism was people saying that they'd kill themselves if they lived in the world of Growing Around. Like, that was a problem with the concept or something.
I suppose it's not on the audience if Mr. Enter can't properly convey his idea, keeping in mind that everything is his fault. And with that, he capped off the video saying,
Oh, and for those who think I'm being egotistical or crazy or whatever, talking like 30 minutes about something that's never ever going to be made, I have a surprise for you. And it's also a surprise for those who've had the patience to hear me out.
And then he proceeded to show his audience the animatic for the first joke of his pilot. What will happen next of his series? And will you please check out my winter merch at crowdmade.com and subscribe if you like my video. These are things you must do.
Crosswalk, Sally. My parents could drive better than you. Just an average day in Summerway.
With the series as Enter writes it, he put himself into a creative box. With 70 episodes completed, and each one will be 22 to 26 minutes, while budgeting will be a bit hard. This is also keeping in mind that his scripts are made in Google Docs. I have a few, all of them, on hand, and let me tell you, it's a hard thing to read. You see, the idea, on average, is that each page in a standard script is a minute within the film's runtime. This is flexible due to line delivery and editing, of course, but since Mr. Enter doesn't like writing in the proper script format, we don't really know how long it will be per episode.
Budgeting? What? Thought you said he only had the Indiegogo.
Well, that's why this video exists. Speaking with a former recent editor of Enter, Sarah, states that Enter is looking to fundraise again with a lower amount. And as he describes it, it would be about $20,000 for an episode. Which, of course, comparing the prices of $350,000 and $20,000, well, seems a bit more reasonable. But remember, this is not fundraising a pilot of sorts. Mr. Enter hates pilots. Of course, Sarah wasn't able to say much about the pitch because he didn't feel like it. And so I asked if there was a chance that within 2 years we'll see an episode.
Like within 2 years from today?
Yes.
I'd give that about a 75% chance of happening.
What about 1 year from now?
1 year from now, 25% chance, I'd say.
The main goal behind the new fundraiser, and to the greater extent the series itself, is that Mr. Enter wants to make enough money for another episode. Also, in a previous interview, Mr. Enter stated that Growing Around isn't profitable.
Growing Around isn't something that's profitable, at least with the model that I'm taking. I'll most likely monetize the pilot and any episodes that come out, but it's going to be very hard to make a living off of that.
Mixing that in with a lack of marketing, and even this next problem, the likelihood of this series ever existing in its current form is slim to none. I keep saying former editor, as on Twitter, Sarah cut ties of Enter and his brand entirely, stating that
That does factor into it, but it's mostly just everything on top of each other plus the persistence of it throughout the year.
Is it something that he brings attention to his group?
He does talk about it quite a bit. It's not all the group focuses on, but it comes up once in a while, yeah. Between me and Mr. Enter specifically, there were a lot of arguments about politics, specifically in this past year, that ended up making the situation between us pretty tense. And after a while, I just figured it was better for my own mental health if I distanced myself from him.
To recap everything that went on so far, in 2014, Neofla and Enter created Growing Around. Neofla officially left the project in 2017, being unable to make it work and have good longevity. A year later, Mr. Enter started at Indiegogo and failed. 2 years later, Enter is looking to fundraise again. Harking back to what Mr. Enter said in his January 2020 video, the leader must accept fault whenever something happens, good or bad. For the good, Mr. Enter wrote a book, published it, used some of the money to make some comics, and even wrote at least 70 scripts. These things are nothing to sneeze at, and I have no cold coming. Good stuff. But the main negative issue is that no one wants to see your project succeed as much as you do, and if people don't like the first episode, then why would they like the other 69? Numbers. What Neofla tried to do back in 2016 and 2017, great shorts, was not a slight on Enter, rather just seeing if they were able to produce something. Anything. That's why to me, it was a bit difficult to see Mr. Enter do anything with the $350,000 if he were to get it, as we've seen close to nothing animated by him previously, publicly. And of course, even to this day, alienating the people working for you, such as bringing up politics, meaning that the people who do want to see this project succeed might flake out for one reason or another. Before asking for a bunch of money, I do have some tips if you want to create a thing. First, before asking for large sums of money or even pitching, try to see what you can do on your own with a smaller, way smaller, personal budget. Be it out of pocket, such as paying some voice actors, some background artists, or just seeing what you can do on your own to get something out. For example, in 2020 I had a goal animation-wise. While doing my regular content and finishing up college, I graduated, I wanted to also produce an animated short. The goals were to make a new IP, new art style, gather a team, hire voice actors, and finish it using the program After Effects. Mainly because I wanted to get better at After Effects. It's a big scary program. And don't worry, I read the comments. If I wanted to pursue this concept further, some notable standout critiques include more backgrounds for camera angles, and perhaps a bigger background to cut into. Such scenes like the cafe or even the park could have been wider and filled in with background characters on a loop to make the world seem more lived in. Also, the way the narrative was written, being split up in small vignettes during out the week, Saturdays off, didn't gel well with the viewer and to many, felt a bit slow in the progression, and not too many people were interested in the story itself. And of course, there were comments about animation being poor, lackluster. I can't believe he reviews animation when this is what he can do, but apart from a few small tweaks that could have been changed, it was as animated as it needed to be for the story I wanted to tell. Of course, that didn't mean I couldn't have thrown in a few more hands into the rig. And yes, this whole project was animated in Adobe After Effects, lip-synced in Adobe Animate, and the walk cycles done in Animate. Although the like to dislike ratio was healthy, there didn't seem to be too much interest with the characters themselves. However, if this was the idea I was shooting for, and people didn't get too attached to the characters, then what would a few more backgrounds do? Shout out to Ill Corpses for making some wonderful fan art for my characters. I really appreciate it. Nevertheless, it was fun and I'm glad I made it, and I look forward to next year's project, as the new script, characters and art style were already along their way. I didn't need to ask for $350,000 to know that people weren't going to like my project. With Jonathan Rosansky to this day actively pursuing this passion project, with the goal of it being funded, I don't know how well that would actually turn out. Considering he left Twitter, DeviantArt, and if anyone pings him or sends a friend request to enter on Discord, he blocks them and bans them from the Discord. I mean, it happened to me. I'm not sure how he could handle people criticizing his longest dedicated project he ever made. You see, the trope of a critic making something and it turns out bad is a mixture of the high expectations of said person mixed with how they review things online. For Pan Pizza, as for shows not as appreciated within the public eye, he can still find enjoyment with them.
Friendship Squad feels like a low-budget product with an inexperienced crew doing the best they can and learning along the way, and I respect that. The only way to get good at something is just jump into it. Better to go in raw or not at all.
And so with this comic releasing, people were pretty much open to his idea. And the same goes for Ellis Mark. He is actively working on a pitch for his upcoming series, and the reception around it is very positive, as so are most of his critique videos that he makes. Unless they're about Adam Sandler, of course. For Mr. Enter, even watching one of his more current videos, you think he hates the idea of animation at all, considering the fact he stopped making admirable animation because it was too hard to write for.
I don't give a shit who Rick is as a person. And here's the funny thing. I only enjoy Rick and Morty because I don't give a shit who Rick is as a person.
Mr. Enter couldn't conceive any possible way this project wouldn't get made, either from his Indiegogo or perhaps another way around.
If all else failed, he would either turn to comics or he would practice animation himself, which currently he has no experience in. But I am pretty confident that he would find a way to continue the idea even if it did fail to raise enough money for more episodes.
He actively thought that this was the project to put him on the map. That was like a lot of pauses. You actually see this everywhere. A lot of artists have these grand ideas that they want to make, and although the hardest part is starting the project, the second hardest is finishing it. Be it because you overestimated the time that you had to work on it, your overestimation of the skills you had, or perhaps your self-doubt with what you have. But remember, you will always have new ideas, and in any case, just reincorporating the ideas that you already made into a new project, or just trying to make the same idea, you get into a cycle, thinking that if I got this far, I must finish it right now. But it sometimes gets to the point where in your own head, and you can't comprehend why, the audience doesn't understand you. I have 70 scripts, a partial animatic, and another fundraiser to help this idea, because surely, this time around, people want to see it come to life. As much as I would love to see Mr. Enter produce an animated property, perhaps now Growing Around isn't that thing. Or maybe it will never be that thing in its current state.
What would you do now, then?
To me, the whole idea of kids being in power and adults being second-class citizens doesn't really work. And if Mr. Enter isn't able to make a conceivable way of making it work, then I'd just finish the last script I was tooling around, release the scripts in PDF form on Gumroad for some change, titling it The 71 Scripts of Growing Around, and just move on to the next project. Thank you for watching. This video wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for my lovely patrons. And please, I'm Daft Pina, and don't forget to have fun.